Saturday afternoon after Toronto FC's most recent and one of the more satisfying wins that the Reds have actually had all season, beating the MLS Cup champion Colorado Rapids at home 2-1 on a brace from Danny Koevermans. Only a couple of things that really bothered me about the game, and I'll get to those in a little bit. But first, a number of things I think that are definitely worthy of praise. The aforementioned Danny Koevermans is one of them, isn't he? Did a little bit of arithmetic prepping for this video blog after I got home this afternoon. And one of the things I noticed is that's Danny's 5th and 6th goals that he scored in his time at Toronto FC in just a little over 500 minutes of play. That's a goal a game, folks. And no MLS striker is above, I think, a .8 goals per game this season. So, assuming that he, is going to be in better shape next season, assuming that he gets more comfortable with the travel and with the circumstances and sort of beds in a little more, I think we very well may have the true sniper that this club has been needing since day one. We've had some strikers that have come in and played well at times. Danny Dichio, our first hero. Dero, when he's played striker, obviously has put the ball in the back of the net as well. But I'm quite optimistic based on his quality. And those goals today, if you saw it on TFC TV, he was full of praise for the crosses that came in that actually led to the 2 goals. But his touches were really sublime. And it's really wonderful to see a player of that quality sort of get comfortable. And again, I'm really optimistic that he's going to be, the striker that we've been needing since day one. And that, of course, gives Aaron Vinter and Paul Mariner and Earl Cochran and everybody else time to get cracking on that defense, which looked a little brittle today. We had a couple of balls cleared off the line, one by Ashton Morgan in the first half, and one by the ginger-headed wonder from Burnley, Richard Eckersley, late in the game. First, a wonderful save from Milos Kosic, who had a good game again today. The ball rebounded off him, came back into the box. I think it was Omar Cummings who knocked it back in, and Richard Eckersley had the presence of mind to back up Kosic and go to the line, cleared the ball off the line, and TFC gets the 3 points and gets the win against the MLS Cup champions, a very good, solid Colorado team. So brittle, I think, is the way to describe things at the back, and they did have a bit of a poor stretch in the second half. Again, Colorado, I think, was to be commended for coming out and getting back in the game, considering that they were down 2-0 fairly early in the second half when those 2 goals came pretty quickly from Richard Eckersley. And Toronto FC did have a bit of a poor stretch that led, of course, to the goal. I think Nyasi scored it, if I'm not mistaken, where it was, there were some blown coverages and whatnot in the box. Go figure. But again, I'm not really going to harp on that too much. The MLS referee, whose name escapes me, I tweeted all of the details about him. I think it's Mark Havlicek, if I'm not mistaken. But again, I'll check that. Didn't really cover himself with a lot of glory today either. He really seemed to be very, very unsure of himself and almost trigger shy. He would almost he would put his hand up and then put it down. He'd put the whistle to his mouth and then put it down. He was really sort of unsure of himself the entire game. And he didn't really do, I think, a really great job. There were a number of pretty rough tackles. Mastroeni in particular, and Nyasi in particular, got away with blue bloody murder today. So I'm not really too pleased about that MLS ref. One of the other things that struck me as well in the time before the game this morning is I'm in one of the supporters groups, as you probably know. I meet up with everybody at the pub before the game. We all march down to the stadium together. And one of the things that's always happening is everybody's got their smartphones out. My phone isn't really that smart, but I got friends with iPhones whose phones are pretty intelligent. They get the Twitter going, and bang, they pull out the starting 11. And I looked at it and went, looks like Mr. Vinter is not resting a single soul for the Toro game on Tuesday, and of course we'll see how that turns out in 3 days' time. Arguably the Reds' biggest game of the season. Win the game, and barring what happens between Dallas and Pumas in Dallas, we see where TFC stands come the later games of the Champions League. The Reds have to win the game in order, of course, to stay in the hunt for qualification into the knockout stages later on in the wintertime and early spring. So that game is coming up on Tuesday evening, and I'm going to be there in full voice. And that gets me to one of the things that really bothered me today. I sit in Section 113. Well, I stand in Section 113. I don't sit down. And today, the crowd was, particularly in the first half, which was a dreadful half of soccer. Both teams looked to be, to use the old English term, looked like they were playing in treacle. They were playing in I don't know, caramel pudding or something. They were not running. They were not chasing down balls. There didn't really look to be a lot of offensive threat from either team. It was just, bouncing it around in the midfield, knocking it back and forth, gain possession, lose possession. It didn't really inspire much confidence that this was going to be an entertaining spectacle and that everybody was going to get their money's worth. On top of that, there were no capos on the capo stands in the South End on Saturday for the first half of the game either. And if you've ever been to a game at BMO Field, you know that the capos, they are paying customers. Those guys, I know them very well. They're paying customers who give up their game for everybody else. And they weren't on the stand in the first half, and there were a bunch of fans over in like Section 110 that were heckling our quieter than usual section. And that really got my back up for two reasons. One, I'm not there to entertain other people. I do a lot of yelling and a lot of chanting and a lot of cheering, as do most of the people in my section, game in, game out for 5 years running now. And we're going to be there through the bad times, and we're going to be there for when things start to get really sweet and start to win things. And it's going to make it all the sweeter because we've come through those bad times together. But it really bothers me when we're being heckled by more, casual fans going, why aren't you entertaining us with all your jumping around and yelling and singing? Well, first off, I'm not there to entertain anybody. I'm there to make noise and to yell and to heckle the opponents and to sing at the top of my lungs to help my team win. And if my fellow fans around me enjoy the show, that's gravy on the fries, but that's not the intent. The intent is to help my team win. I'm not there to entertain anybody else. So I really hope that those fans get a life and don't start throwing darts when darts aren't necessary to be thrown at anybody else. You get your own section going. You get your own section cheering before you start criticizing our section for having what was arguably an off half. Now, in the second half of the game, things turned around. Our capos got on the stands. The chants started coming again, as they usually do, and it almost felt to me like the capos sucked that first goal into the net. And when that goal came in, lo and behold, TFC picked it up and started to actually play fantastic from there on in. And they actually, of course, won the game. So I really want to throw some credit to the capos for doing what they do. I challenge fans out there that are paying hundreds of dollars for these seats to, for the greater good, turn their back on the spectacle that they're paying to see on the field, and take a lot of ridicule sometimes doing it to get fans actually chanting and yelling and screaming behind them. Those guys should be commended. If you ever see them, you buy them a beer, because they very well deserve every plaudit that they get for what they're doing, because they make a big sacrifice. And that's it. I'm not going to preach about that anymore. I'll have another video blog up on Tuesday after the critical game against Toro in the Champions League on Tuesday, which is kind of going to be a make-or-break game. TFC has to win the game. And not only that, I think they might have to win the game by a few goals as well in order to cover off what happened in Mexico City on Wednesday past against Pumas, the 4-0. So kudos to Danny Koevermans, kudos to TFC, kudos to the Capos. and kudos to the club overall for the win. We'll see you guys on Tuesday, and I'll have more info about the Champions League coming up in this space over the next few days. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.